All right, welcome to Crime into Bed. I'm Felicia.
And I'm Mom, Jennifer.
And today we have an episode that is going to build upon our previous episode. In episode 3, we were introduced to an element of Angela Dugan's story that plays a pivotal role in how we view her actions from beginning to end. Her sister, Ginger, told us that Angela claimed while working as a surgical tech in Alaska, a surgeon she worked alongside became so enraged that they pulled a surgical light onto Angela's head. Angela says this incident is what caused her blindness. After researching, interviewing, and receiving anonymous listener tips, the story of her blindness remains shrouded in mystery, largely because the narrative keeps changing. Depending on who you ask, you'll hear a different explanation for how she became blind and whether that claim can even be believed. We won't speculate on Angela's blindness. Instead, we will report only what has been publicly stated and what appears in court records just involving her.
So I'm just curious, what other stories have you heard besides the surgical light? So we've had public posts show Angela Dugan represented herself as a pastor of a Blind Cowgirl Church. She operated a Facebook, a ministry page, and solicited food and supplies and monetary contributions in that church's name. We have not located records establishing that the church was separately incorporated in Arkansas or held an IRS determination letter, filed Form 990 returns, or appeared as a named party in any court documents that we've come across. Because churches, they have special filing exemptions, missing church records don't answer whether the Blind Cowgirl Church was legitimate. It does lead us to a much more documented story. The word blind wasn't used only in the church's name or Angela's online identity. It later appeared in a Faulkner County, Conway, Arkansas property dispute where Angela told the court that she was blind and could not read the legal papers she'd been served. That claim became part of the official court record.
This is a case filing 23 CV 23 1002. This began as a family property dispute, not a lawsuit against Angela Dugan. She only entered the case later on as a subpoenaed witness because of Arkansas Honeybee Girls, which was a business she was associated with. She appeared in the property transactions described by the plaintiffs. Angela's attorney stated in a filing that she was blind and could not read the documents allegedly handed to her in jail. The court records reviewed do not show that the judge verified or rejected that statement, and what we found was no order arresting Angela, sanctioning her, or finding her in contempt. Although later filings say a default judgment had been entered against defendant Karma Jean Otts. Damages were never finalized in the records reviewed, and the entire case ultimately was dismissed without prejudice on May 14th, 2026.
Being dismissed without prejudice means that at some point in the future, if we find more substantial information or we find out exactly where we can serve you so we can carry on this case, we'll pick it back up. If it's dismissed with prejudice, that means the court, they cannot ever file that suit again. How the property dispute began concerns a home in Conway, Arkansas. And according to the plaintiff's complaint, Dwayne and Benny Mendenhall originally owned the property. On July 1st of 2010, the Mendenhalls signed a warranty deed transferring that property to Benny's children, Henry, Edward, Eddie, Brixie, and Karma Jean Otts. So we have what would have been Angela's grandma transferring that property to Angela's mom. The deed was recorded on May 18th, 2011. That their Aunt Betty Webb could remain in the house for the rest of her life. After Benny Mendenhall died in 2014, Betty continued to live there. So the siblings agreed that when the property was sold, the proceeds would be divided as follows: 1/4 to Harvey Perry, 1/4 to Henry Bixie, 1/4 to Karma Jean Otts, and 1/4 collectively to Dwayne Mendenhall's, to those 3 children. These were allegations in the complaint. The court never made a final ruling confirming that this oral agreement existed or was enforceable.
Yeah, so this is where Arkansas Honeybee Girls enters the property history. The complaint alleged that Karma Otts moved into the property in 2017. In 2018, Otts allegedly told Brixie that she wanted to keep the house and would purchase his interest.
Okay.
According to the complaint, on May 18, 2018, Brixie and his wife signed a quit claim deed transferring their interest to Karma Otts and an entity identified as Arkansas Honeybee Girls.
In 2018, it was transferred to Karma Otts and the business Arkansas Honey Bee Girls.
Okay, so the plaintiffs allege that Otts obtained a $140,000 loan involving the property. The complaint alleged that some of those funds were used to buy out Arkansas Honeybee Girls.
Okay, so Miss Karma gets a loan for $140,000 and she turns around and buys out her own business, allegedly.
Brixie claimed that they did not learn about that loan until approximately July 15th, 2020. The complaint also alleged that Arkansas Honeybee Girls did not appear on the Arkansas Secretary of State's website as a valid entity. This is the primary
Facts.
reason that Angela Dugan appears relevant to the lawsuit. She was publicly and legally associated with Arkansas Honeybee Girls. However, documents reviewed do not contain a court order specifically explaining why Angela was subpoenaed or exactly what testimony the plaintiffs expected from her.
So they file a lawsuit. Harvey Perry and Henry Edward Brixey filed their complaint against Karma Jean Otts in Faulkner County Circuit Court on July 5th of 2023. And they alleged that there was a breach of an oil agreement, that there was unjust enrichment, that fraud, duress, undue influence, or mistaken trust concerning the property transfer, and that the property was worth more than $200,000. And they wanted to be compensated for their claimed interest. They requested that the court impose a constructive trust over the property, which would actually make it a valid trust, ordered that the house be listed with a realtor, ordered that the property be sold, and divide the proceeds according to the family agreement and award any attorney fees and costs. The attorney fees and costs, that's standard in most complaints.
Later state filings state that the court entered a default judgment against Karma Otts, leaving only the amount of damages to be determined. And a default generally means that a party failed to respond or otherwise defend as required. It is not necessarily that the allegations were fully tested through testimony and trial. However, no final damages judgment appear in the available record.
Yeah, so Angela Dugan was then subpoenaed. And according to the plaintiff's motion of October 4th, 2024, she was served with a civil subpoena on August the 21st of 2024. And this is where our story takes us. The process server delivered that subpoena to her at the Marion County Detention Center. The subpoena scheduled her to appear for a deposition on September 19th, 2024 at 10 a.m. She was to appear at a law office in Clinton, Arkansas. The plaintiff said that the subpoena included the required witness fee and mileage payment. They claimed that Angela did not object to the subpoena within the required 10-day time period. And these were the plaintiff's representations, and Angela later disputed the proper service.
Angela also did not appear for the deposition. The court reporter's record shows that the plaintiff's lawyer appeared for the deposition on September 19th. So the record concluded at 10:12 a.m. and no testimony from Angela was taken. On October 4th, 2024, the plaintiffs filed a motion titled Motion for Order Arrest Warrant and Sanctions. The plaintiff asked the court to issue a warrant directing law enforcement to take Angela into custody and bring her before the court to testify and answer for her contempt, and award at least $3,500 for attorney time, travel, process service, and the witness fee and court reporting expenses.
Yeah, depositions are expensive. Yeah.
This was only a request. A motion does not establish that Angela committed contempt or that a warrant was issued.
Yeah. So this is where Angela makes the blindness statement that's on record. On October 16th of 2024, Angela responded through her attorney, Eugene P. Clifford. The response stated, Miss Dugan is blind and could not read anything handed to her in jail. It also stated that she did not receive service regarding the case while in jail, that she believed she was still incarcerated when the deposition was scheduled, that she could not recall her exact release date, that she could not confirm nor deny whether the witness fee check was attached, and that the deposition was not properly scheduled under the Arkansas Rule of Civil Procedure 45. She made no objection because, according to her, she did not receive service. The requested $3,500 was excessive, and she was willing to participate in a future deposition. Angela asked the court to deny the motion for arrest and sanctions. The blindness filing proves and does not prove that Angela's attorney made the blindness statement on her behalf in a court filing. It does not establish what caused any blindness or visual impairment, when her blindness or visual impairment would have began, whether it was temporary or permanent, the extent of the impairment, whether she could read using any assisted technology, or whether medical evidence supported the statement. But most importantly, we found no order in which the judge decided whether the blindness statement was true or false.
So this brings us to the point where it's February 3rd, 2025. The agreed motion stated that the Rule 45 dispute involving Angela was still pending. The lawyers agreed to continue the matter so that they could arrange another deposition or determine what other action needed to move the case forward. On February 4th, 2025, the court granted the continuance, and that is not a ruling in Angela's favor or against her. It just simply postponed the issue. We found no later order. No issuing an arrest warrant, no holding Angela in contempt, no awarding the requested $3,500, or finding that Angela had been properly served, resolving the blind statement, showing that Angela had never completed the
Well,
deposition.
can you clarify something here? She was properly served. She was served by a process server in a detention center. That's proper service.
Well, what happens next is on January 21st, 2025, the attorney, Mark S. Carter, asked to withdraw that was representing Perry and Brixey. And on February 4th, the court granted his withdrawal.
So the reason that the case became inactive is because we know that she fled the state. So once she fled the state, the court didn't know where she was. And if anybody had gone to the court and said, we have reason to believe this is where our defendant is, she would have been probably, most assuredly, arrested there. On February 18th of 2026, the court issued notices stating that there had been no action for 12 months and that the parties were given 2 weeks to show good cause why the lawsuit should remain open. And these notices were directed to Perry, Brixey, Otts, and Angela's attorney, Eugene Clifford. On May 14th, 2026, Judge Susan K. Weaver dismissed the entire case without prejudice, meaning it can be brought against them again, for, I believe it was Civil Rule 41, which means there's been no movement, it's been 12 months, we're going to dismiss this without prejudice. The reasons stated were for lack of prosecution and failure to show good cause for keeping the case open. So just to be clear, the blindness statement was asserted as part of Angela's defense to the requested arrest and sanctions. It is not a medical finding, nor is it a factual determination by the court.
We now want to offer more context as to what else was happening to Angela around the time that she was served those papers for that property dispute. I mean, what was she even doing in Marion County Detention Center for them to serve the papers to her there?
Yes.
Around this time frame, this is when the alleged Ozar Safety Cabin scam was catching up to the Dugan family.
Yes.
We will be addressing 3 case filings.
CR 24 87.
45 CR 2488, and 45 CR 24-89.
And for the just to fill in some information, CR means criminal.
And none of these three cases resulted in a conviction or
Yet.
a factual finding against Angela Dugan.
Yet.
On October 27th, 2025, all three prosecutions were ended by null prosecute, subject to Arkansas's right to refile as allowed by law. What we will state with absolute certainty is that these charges heavily involve the business dealings of Ozark Safety Cabins. The filings ending in 87 and 88 appear to involve the lease agreement for the facility where Ozark Safety Cabins was conducting its business operations. And the case filing ending in 89 covers a dispute regarding the shipping containers that Ozark Safety Cabins were attempting to resell.
And as we have previously reported, that's not all the criminal activity she was in jail for. So, taken together and still strictly speaking to the terms of allegations, the state suspected that during spring and early summer 2024, Angela was entering commercial lease arrangements for a flipping building, issuing high value checks that allegedly could not be honored. We know they couldn't be honored. That's not alleged. We'll state that with authority. Ordering large quantities of shipping containers, receiving at least some of that merchandise, issuing a $53,990 check that was returned for insufficient funds, placing an additional $269,950 order without paying the invoices, and attempting to move merchandise out of the state. Those allegations were clustered primarily between April 22nd and June 20th of 2024, followed by the reported arrest on August the 20th.
So, what stands out to us as not just one isolated allegation, but is how Arkansas Honeybee Girls, the Conway property transaction, the Ozark Safety Cabins all appear in different records surrounding Angela and her family. They can't escape it. I mean,
Right.
each matter has to be evaluated separately, but when we organize those records chronologically, we can begin to see just how the different chapters overlap.
Yeah. And so that is exactly why dates matter, why documents matter, and why we carefully separate allegations from proven facts. We are not here to tell you what to think. We're here to show you what the records say and what they don't say, so you can follow the evidence with us.
If you conducted business with the Arkansas Honeybee Girls, Ozark Safety Cabins, you can privately contact us at crimeintobed@gmail.com or our social media pages. And also, please send us copies rather than original documents and redact any social security numbers, identifying information, redact complete bank account numbers and information identifying children.
Our invitation for Angela Dugan, Allison Mulpus, or an authorized representative to respond also remains open, and it will remain open. If you believe that we have misunderstood a document or omitted relevant context, send us supporting records and we will review them fairly. And please remember, do not harass, threaten, or contact anyone featured in this story. Let's keep the conversations respectful and focused on the public records.
We're not finished following these businesses, these transactions, or the people who say that they were affected.
And I just want to add that conversation that we started in episode 3. Every season that we do, every platform we get on, we want to leave the world a better place. We want to not repair the destruction this family has caused, but make it positive. So if you can think of any ideas, any programs that we can get behind and support, please shoot us an email, message us on Facebook. We would love to be able to spin this negativity that we are reporting about this family and their serial scamming and turn it into something positive, especially for the homeless veterans that they claim to
To want to
be
help.
wanting to help. Yes. So, yes, just reach out to us, please. And we ain't done. That's the most Arkansas way I can say it. We seriously only just got started with these lawsuits.
Yeah, this episode was something I definitely wanted to dig our heels into
Yeah,
because you just see more examples of how Angela is taking advantage of her family,
yeah,
bringing her mom into this, and I'm so upset for Ginger and her other siblings. And just the fact that very possibly one of the most vulnerable victims in all of this
yeah,
doesn't even know she's a victim.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to put this out there that if you're watching Karma, please contact someone that you feel is a trusted person. If you would like to come home and there are,
If you see a police officer on the street, just say, "Hey, I wanna go home."
yes,
They'll make sure you get in contact with the right people.
yes,
Unstable people, and we can say they're unstable because if they weren't unstable, they would have a place of residency where they could be properly served.
word. So until next time,
Keep sleuthing, stay cozy, and always stay curious. Thanks, guys. Good night.
Thanks for listening. Please see you. Like and subscribe.